I've never written a picture book before. That one's coming out next in 2016, and then 2017 another novel. So they're all going to be coming out, and then after that another picture book, and then another novel, which I haven't written yet. So I have to get writing.
Okay, when you started to think of ideas for your book, what were some of your first ideas, or did you just think of this idea and then write this idea?
That's a really good question. So I wanted to write about rickshaws because we lived in Bangladesh for 3 years, and we rode the rickshaws, and they were pretty amazing because of the people that pull the rickshaws. The guys that pull the rickshaws are really poor, but the rickshaws were beautiful. They were painted so beautifully, and they were maintained so beautifully. So I was very curious as to why they spent so much time painting them. And I also wanted to talk about girls in Bangladesh and how life was changing for them. So I think, so the question was, the characters come first? What was the question? Forgot your question.
When you started to think of ideas, what was your first idea?
Yeah, that was kind of the idea. It was more the theme, and always for me, place comes first. So when I think of a story, I have three things that I weave together. They all start with the letter P. Can you guess what they are? It's like a braid. Place, yeah,
person.
yeah. One more thing you have to have. You have place and people, but there has to be one more thing in a story. Something has to happen to them.
Problem and publication.
Well, problem or plot. That's right. So something has to happen, right? Plot. So for some writers, I don't know, you write, so maybe your plot comes first to you. And other people, characters come first. Characters that you want to destroy or characters that you root for. But for me, place comes pretty early on. I want to set a story in place. And I really like taking people to a place. So that's one of my favorite things. I think that's what came first, was wanting to put it in the country of Bangladesh.
When I write, usually I dream up the story and then I write it.
So what comes first, a character or a plot?
My sleep.
Comes out of your sleep. That would be great. I wish that would happen to me.
Okay, so when you write, do you think carefully about each word, or do the words fall out?
Yeah, that's usually the words fall out. And we were singing before when we were talking about this. We were singing "Brave, Brave." Yeah. And I love that line in the song. Right? You want to sing it? How's it go?
I forget.
Let the words fall out, honestly. That's right. It takes that kind of courage to let words fall out, because you have to trust that they're not going to be so boring or so unnecessary. You just have to let the words fall out on the first draft, and that takes a certain amount of courage. And you have to. There's voices in your head that say, "Oh, the story's dumb. Oh, you don't want to write this story, or no one's going to read this." You just have to say, "Okay, everybody, be quiet back there, and just be brave and let the words just fall out." But then when I edit, I go back and I'm very careful about word choices at that point. My first book was published so fast, it won a contest. My second book was rejected by 22 different publishers. It's called Monsoon Summer, and it took 11 years for that book to come out. You're 10, so imagine more than your life it took. So that was when I learned about, and I had to change almost every word in that book, because I didn't want my character to lose my character. So I revise it, and that's when I learned how important word choice is for revision. But for my first draft, I go to a coffee shop, I sit with my laptop, I have my coffee or my tea, and I just let the words fall out. And I try to be really brave.
It's like my mom does, except she does it with emails.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she goes to coffee shops for emails?
Yep.
Well, I've probably run into her, because that's why. But if I go to the same coffee shop, they get tired of me, so I rotate coffee shops. Tell your mom, it's a good move.
I will tell her.
Okay, next question.
When you were thinking about character traits, were you thinking of yourself, a friend, or just making them up?
So I think that for Naima, the main character, I think she's probably a lot like me. In fact, most of the characters I tap into myself, because you know yourself the best. So I would say probably just me. Isn't that sad? They're all versions of me. Now I think with Naima, I think, what would happen if, but I also make her up in my head. So she's different than me. So I think, what would I do if I crashed my father's rickshaw? Might be different than what Naima did. By then she's already become a person of her own. And I kind of know her. So when I'm writing and I'm taking a shower, I'm walking my dogs, I will think, well, what would Naima do if she was late? Would she be the kind of person that just ran to make sure she get there on time? Or would she be like, oh well, I'm late, who cares? They can just wait for me. See how different that is for the character? So I want to get to know her really well in lots of different situations. And then I can write her who she truly is. Yeah.
Were you planning on writing about different characters? Like, were you planning on writing about a character named Tiffany instead of a character named
Tiffany in Bangladesh, she'd be called Tiffany. She wouldn't be called Tiffany. No, I didn't want to write about Tiffany. I wanted to write about me. Maybe my next book will be about Tiffany. No, I don't know. She just came in my head, and names are interesting, aren't they? When you choose to name a character, like how do you pick a name, and then the name sticks with the character. We were talking about our names. Remember, we were figuring out what our names mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what mine meant? Mine means Mitali.
Like happiness.
Friendly. I remember what yours mean.
I was close.
You were close, because when you're friendly, you're happy. But Dahlia, right? It's flower in English, and then in Hebrew,
It's a branch.
a branch. Beautiful branch of an olive tree. I love that name. I may have to put a Dahlia on my story.
Yay! Okay, next question.
Next question.
This is from,
Yeah,
I forget her name.
Aoife.
Aoife.
Yeah.
She is
Hi, Aoife, if you're out there.
8 years old.
8 years old. So she's probably what, third grade
Or 4th.
or fourth?
Could be.
Could be fourth.
Her question is, in what time period is the story set? Does Naima's story show the way life is right now in a Bangladesh village?
Yes, it's very much set right now. It hasn't changed that much, although girls are getting a little bit more of a chance to run businesses than they used to. But it's still pretty much the way it is now. Both of my grandmothers grew up in villages in Bangladesh. My mom grew up in a village in Bangladesh. So unfortunately, it hasn't changed as much in terms of girls having tons of opportunities, but it's slowly changing. It's kind of exciting that it is changing after all these years, and that a girl like Naima can run her own business.
Okay, this is from one of the purple dogs of Portland.
Hi, Purple Dogs.
Willow,
I like your name.
Gabby, and Gabby. So
Yeah.
whoever asked this question, thank you.
Yes.
Do you plan on writing a sequel to Rickshaw Girl?
No! Sequels are hard, Dahlia, don't you think? Have you ever written a sequel? Okay, well, what do you think I should do for a sequel? What's your idea?
You could write it from the perspective of the boy.
Salim.
Yeah.
I like that idea. Be hard to do though, because I don't know. I felt like the story was done. But I'll think about it, Gabby, Willa, and Winnie. I'll think about it.
Also, you could also write it from somebody from her family or the girl who owned the rickshaw shop.
True. Maybe her little sister. Lots of possibilities. You're saying a sequel is a change of character. That's because you care about characters a lot.
I care about characters a lot.
It could also be a plot sequel, like something could happen in the family, or something could happen in the village. It could be a big storm that everybody loses their house, and then something like that. Exciting plot move.
Be able to fly. She learned.
Now we're going into fantasy. Rickshaw Girl, the fantasy version, where Naima flies, do her job every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Okay.
Yes.
This question is from Sorcha.
Yeah,
I really hope that's how I pronounce it.
I think you did it right. Yeah, that's a pretty name. I wonder what that means.
Is the story based on your life, an autobiography, a biography, or a work of fiction?
Well, as I said, my grandmothers were both village girls, and my mom. So I guess part of my life, and we lived there for 3 years, and I rode a lot of rickshaws. But it's actually a very different story. I mean, I had a good education. Naima doesn't get to go to school. So we've got a lot of differences, too, between us. I live here in America. She lives in Bangladesh. So I made her up in my head. So it's fiction. The book is actually being made into a play here in the Bay Area. And I went and heard the reading of the play. The actors did a reading. And I was sitting there while they were doing the reading. And I forgot I wrote the book. I was just sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, she crashed her rickshaw. well, what's going to happen to this girl? And I was rooting for her, and then all of a sudden I realized I made her up. She's my character. It's very strange. So I guess it's purely fiction, but some of the context is from my own life. I speak Bengali, Bangla, which is what Naima's language is.
Can you say hello?
Yeah, well, if you're from it depends. If you're from a Hindu background, you say namaste. If you're from a Muslim background, you say assalamu alaikum. And I guess if you're Jewish, you'd say shalom. But I don't know if there are very many Jewish people there. Yeah, shalom.
This is from Lily.
Lily.
7.
Oh, 7, second grade.
I want to be an author when I grow up, so I'm curious about how many drafts of Rickshaw Girl you wrote and how long it took you to write it.
It took a long time. Lots and lots of drafts. I changed a lot in it.
Do you know the number of drafts?
Well, I know for Monsoon Summer, which is the book that was rejected so many times, I have 22 versions on my computer, completely different versions. And for Bamboo People, another one of my books, was also rejected and revised many, many times. I wrote it all in first person. I did this, then I changed it all to third person, then I put it all in the past tense, then I changed it all to the present tense. And so I do that kind of thing a lot. I play around with drafts a lot like that. In fact, if you get stuck on one of your drafts, it's really fun to do that. So if you're writing a story and you're stuck, one of the tricks is to change it to the present tense. Like, so instead of saying, oh, Tiffany went to on a play date, you could do it first person present. You could say, I'm going on a play date. And then you can talk about the friend. You see how it changes it all of a sudden? The voice changes. You're not Tiffany going on a play date or Tiffany went on a play date. You're in the moment. And that helps. Those kind of tricks help. So I do lots of drafts. And for Rickshaw Girl, I did lots of drafts. It's fun. It's wordplay. If you don't like playing around with words and playing around with stories, then you probably should be a writer. So I think you should be open to doing lots of drafts. That makes it fun.
I think she's talking to you.
What's her name?
Lily.
Yeah. Do a lot of drafts.
Don't like wordplay? Don't be an author.
Yeah, words are so fun. And you know how powerful words are? You're in 5th grade. We're talking about friendships and how words are so powerful. They can make you feel great, or they can really hurt you.
Or there can be no words. That also hurts.
That also hurts. That's the power of words. There's silence. There's spoken words. Yeah, so you have to be really careful with your words or your silences.
Yeah.
You're right. That's why when you're a writer, that's what you do. You're using words, and you're hoping that you're using words in a way that are going to make people be encouraged and lifted up and not torn down.
So I just came up with this question
Yes.
because I was interested in it. But when you write a book, because I always want books to be always happy, but then they're not interesting. So how do you come up with the problems for the book? Because
Did you think Rickshaw Girl had a happy ending?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when I read Rickshaw Girl, I felt like the problem was that she crashed it.
Yeah.
But in my books, that would never happen. It would always be she would go to this, maybe she would just walk into town as a girl, and that would happen. But I never do something so big, so how do you do that?
Oh, I see. So when there's a big problem, how do you come up with decide if it's going to be a happy ending or a sad ending? And there's one book that I wrote that's called Secret Keeper. It's kind of probably for your sister's age, a little older. And in that one, it's kind of an anti-fairy tale. You know how fairy tales are once upon a time and they lived happily ever after? So I wrote that in that book, she doesn't get her prince, but she has her own sort of happily ever after that has nothing to do with a boy in that book. And there were people it was interesting because it's about a love between two sisters. So she chooses her sister over the boy in that story that I wrote called Secret Keeper. And it was funny because in India, they thought it was a happy ending, but in America, they thought it was a sad ending. Isn't that weird? So I had people writing me letters from America saying, why did you make such a sad ending? She should have gotten the boy. And then I had people writing from India saying, thank you for writing such a happy ending that the sisters loved each other so much that the boy didn't get in the way. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Two different cultures and two different responses.
I have a lot of books that I know like that, but one is the movie Frozen.
Yes, it's a lot like that.
Also, there's a book called The School for Good and Evil. There are 3 books. I would.
Do you like that book? You recommend it? Okay, is that about sisters too?
It's about best friends that Okay, spoiler alert, don't listen to this if you
Okay.
haven't read
I don't want to listen to it. I want to read it.
Well,
Don't spoil it.
something happens, and there's a lot of talk between who gets this boy, la la la, and in the end, one of the girls picks the boy.
Okay. Over her friends?
Yes.
Ooh.
But then they realize that the boy is kind of evil, and they get back together.
I like this. We gotta write this down. Okay, when we're done, tell me the title.
Okay.
I like it already.
Yes.
Gosh, you pitch books well. I want you to go around and pitch my books because you make me want to read it just with that description. That's hard to do. Good job.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so this is a question that is exactly like another question we just asked. So this is a question from Nikita.
Nikita. Oh, that's an Indian name.
Nikita. Okay.
Hi, Nikita.
Did you really draw the Alpana in real life?
I tried. My mom is a master Alpana, whatever you say it, painter. She's so good. So she taught me. It's really about symmetry. You know, they use rice powder paint and they paint it on the thresholds of the house. And usually it's done by girls. It's traditionally girls who paint. And so what you do is you try to send a message about your house from what's on the threshold. So let's say you're having your bat mitzvah, right? And everyone's coming over. You want to make it just so happy, like your Alpana design should be just look so joyous and happy because it's a party day, right? So that's what the Alpana is for. That it expresses what's happening in the household. If there's a new baby, if there's some, but it also is about symmetry. So, do you know what symmetry is?
I think so.
Okay, why don't you take a guess?
It's like symmetric lines.
Right. So what does that mean?
If
When something
something's
is
symmetric,
symmetrical.
you can cut it in half and fold it. Not that you can fold houses, but you can cut it in half and fold it, and it would be exactly the same on both sides.
That is a great definition of symmetry. So like for us, for example, like if you cut us in half, you have an eye on this side and an eye on that side, right? An arm and an arm. We're pretty symmetrical as human beings, don't you think? Kind of.
I might have more freckles on
More
this
freckles
side
on
of my
that side. I know this face is a little fatter than this side of my face. But in any case, symmetry is key to Alpana art. So if you draw like a flower on this side on your threshold, you draw a flower on that side. If you draw an olive branch on this side, you draw an olive branch on that side. That's one of the keys. Other than symmetry and expressing what's in your heart, those are the secrets to good Alpana art.
What I would do if I was going to draw a giant heart over my door and then draw it inside.
Yeah, well, we could, if we had more time, we could show them how to do Alpanas. It's really fun. You could take some sidewalk chalk and just paint a little symmetrical drawing on your front step. That's good enough when you go home.
It's close.
It's close.
Okay, so this is another one of my questions.
Okay, good.
When Naima starts painting the rickshaw, I really felt like I was there watching it all happen. How did you make me feel like I was in Naima's shoes?
That's such a high compliment. Let me just sit with that for a minute. You felt like you were there. That's awesome. Every writer wants to hear that. That means my words were able to take you far away to another place and you were right there in that twilight scene while they were painting. I love that happened.
Was it Twilight?
Starting to getting dark and you have to light the lamps.
Oh, yeah.
Her dad comes up out of the dark. He's like, Naima, where were you? How did I do that? Well, I think the first thing is when I tell people to write a scene, you have to be able to go there first. So you have to really imagine it. And I like I said, I like to write about place. So what I try to do is imagine a place with all 5 of my senses. So there's sight, what are the other 4? Sound, smell, touch,
and hear, I think.
Hearing, and that sounds like there's
Listen or hear.
taste. Yeah, so all those senses, if you can imagine, if I was in a village in twilight in Bangladesh, what would I smell? What would the air feel like on my skin? What would I see and what would I hear? And if I can imagine that as I'm writing the scene, then I can draw you into that with me. Then your imagination meets my imagination, and you yourself start to imagine, wow, what would that be like to be painting late in the afternoon? And hopefully our imaginations could come up with it, could take us both there. So that's what I think a good writer can do is their own imagination. You offer enough details so that the reader's imagination can then take over and take you there. Sounds like we did a good job, the 2 of us on that scene. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. What are you reading now?
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what we're reading. So I am rereading now because I'm doing a revision of a novel, and I can't really read something fresh. So I'm rereading, and I reread seasonally. So I have all these favorite books that I reread all year round. So around November, I reread all the Harry Potter books. I love them. So I read them again. So I'm reading Harry Potter 7 right now. And I'm also going to be reading the Betsy Tacy books, which are fantastic books. I really recommend them. They're old-fashioned books, but they're about wonderful, strong girls. I think you guys would love them. So that'll be my next reread. So what about you?
Don't like Harry Potter.
Okay.
I just don't get the concept. But right now, I am reading a book called Pictures of Hollis Woods, which is about a
Oh,
girl, and she gets left by her parents in the middle of the woods.
right. Who wrote that? Do you remember who wrote that? A friend of mine wrote that. Okay. Anyway, keep going. Tell us about it.
So she gets left in the middle of the woods, and she keeps getting adopted by different people.
Is it real life? It's not fantasy. Oh, it's kind of fantasy. Oh, it sounds great. All right, put that on my list.
So she only finds one place she actually feels like she belongs. And we don't know yet because I'm not that far into the book, but something happens. I don't know. And
So like a page turner, like you can't stop reading. Oh, great.
But every chapter, there's kind of like 2 chapters in it.
Yeah.
One is the description of one of her drawings, and one is a chapter about what's life like then.
Okay.
And so it's really cool because the life then is so different from her memories and her drawings.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's all about a really good drawer. And I wish I could draw,
Yeah.
but I can't really draw.
I know. Well, you can write about a drawer. That's what I did in Rickshaw Girl. Write about a drawer. Well, thank you so much, Deli, for having me. And hopefully, if you guys are the Bay Area, you can come join us for the stage version of Rickshaw Girl. There's a movie version coming out in 2017. And that's exciting. So hopefully you guys can catch the story in those forms.
I have one last question.
All right.
Where and when is the play going to be playing?
Yes, it's going to be in Berkeley and San Francisco and San Ramon, and it's going to be in the spring of 2016. And everybody's invited. It'll be so fun to see all you girls there. So come up and say hi if I'm there and introduce yourselves. It'll be fun to see you. Hopefully I'll see you.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. Mom, if you are listening to this, I'm going to that play.
Yay, Mom! I'll meet you in the coffee shop while you do your emails. All right, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.